So I just want to start out saying thank you to our sponsors and supporters. So the Trout Museum in Appleton, the Fox Valley Symphony, Valley Academy for the Arts, Mud and Prince in Appleton, and all of our Patreon supporters. It's really important to us that everyone is helping us kind of promote the community that we want to grow in and that we want to learn and develop as artists and as community members participating in the arts. Tonight we have a really special person. She's really special to me, Elisabeth, and she's a dancer. She grew up in the Appleton area, but now kind of lives in the Milwaukee area and is dancing both in Milwaukee and Madison. And I'm really excited for the conversations we're going to have tonight. So I'm just going to have her start by introducing herself, talking about her work, and maybe showing us a small clip of what she does.
All right. Hello, everybody. It is so special to be here. And I just want to thank Katerina and Christian for letting me be interviewed and to share the space and who I am and my story with you all. So thank you so much. Where do I start? So I was born in South Korea and adopted. And I was also raised in Appleton, Wisconsin. I feel like I had quite a journey, growing up in a predominantly white society and a white family who I loved so much. And then basically coming into Milwaukee, and that's been a whole new adventure. So I graduated from the University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire with a BA in piano and a minor in dance. And ever since I was a kid, since I took tap lessons at the Park and Rec in Appleton, I knew that I wanted to be a performer, or I wanted to be a musician or some type of artist. So I knew that after I graduated college, I wanted to start auditioning for dance companies, whatever that took. I was not going to give up. And even though my family kind of pushed me against those ideas of like even becoming a piano teacher as well in the mix, I was told, you're not going to make any money. So, that I feel like, yeah, artists, we always struggle in that space, depending on what we do in the field. But I think we always find a way to make it work and to make a living. And I feel like I could be happier with what I'm doing. So right now I am a company member with 3 different dance companies, and I'm also a guest artist with others and do other projects. So I dance with Lee Chelping Dance in Madison. I also perform with DanceWorks Performance Milwaukee, also known as, or formerly known as DanceWorks Performance Company. And I also dance with Wild Space Dance Company. So I drive, before the virus happened, I was driving twice a week to Madison for rehearsals. And then every other day was in Milwaukee. So that's, a 45-minute trek. And I feel like I, was driving is just a part of how I get to the studio and how I get to those rehearsals. And that didn't stop me. I also, before I do have to mention that I did audition for DanceWorks the first time. And that's how I met Kat. Actually, that's how we became best dance friends. And after that, I also performed with Katie at Dance Collective. So then things just kind of spiraled from there.
Do you want to talk about your personal process? Because you also do a little bit of choreography. Aside from being a dancer, you're working on your own personal processes and interpreting movement. Do you want to share a little bit about that?
Sure. So I guess I started making solo work. Shortly after I graduated, I remember you and I made solo pieces for a Valley Academy performance. I think that was maybe 2013.
That was like right when I got back. That was like 2015.
Yeah. Yes, I think mine was titled Licked and yours was Lilify. Is that right?
Yeah, might have been, yeah.
So I realized that my choreography has started to evolve. So I guess back then I would make work based on, I don't know, just trying to create new movements, what would feel good in my body, not necessarily going towards a narrative all the time, but I guess for student works that I would set on for if they were performing in a concert, then I would definitely make it a narrative. But for myself, I think I just stuck to, what felt right in that time and moment in my life. But I definitely now really like to make work based on personal experiences. So the piece that I recently made last summer, and I premiered it at the Li Chaoping Dance Summer Intensive. It is called Undefeated, and it's basically a lot has happened in my life through personal hardships. So I wanted to make something meaningful about that, and then also express a little bit more of my story and pieces of who I am. So it starts off with like negative self-talk in the beginning, and then I asked certain people to give me definitions about what resilience means to them. And so then I based movement off of their phrases or their words. And then I also jotted down some sentences, and I made phrases off of that too. I also really wanted to push myself to create movement that like I've never experienced before, and I needed a totally different sensation. So I could actually, I don't know, feel everything. That's definitely part of my process of when I perform is I really like to radiate what's happening inside out to the world so I can connect with who's ever out there and let them know or try to have some sort of understanding of who I am and if anyone can relate to what I'm going through. Would you like me to show the clip now?
Yeah, if you want to.
Okay. So this. So I apologize if you can't hear the text as well, but it starts at the point where I just did all of my negative self-talk section, and then it goes into the resilience section.
How do you find the strength to get back up? To me, resilience is going through everything that you could possibly go through in a lifetime and still having the strength to say, I can do this. I can wake up. It's having the strength to even get up out of your bed each morning. It's having the strength to still put a smile on your face, not to go through all of the pain that you've been through, and still being able to be authentically you, even through it all. Resilience, the ability to bounce back, feeling strength and knowing that I can recover, riding the wave out, not getting sucked in by others' hands. Resilience reminds me of those that have lived through hardship and successfully thrived at life after. Steadfast and loyal. If someone is really committed, they will become resilient to stand by it. I think resilience means making the hard times the best of your ability. learn something. There's pain in resilience, there's shame sometimes even in resilience, there's ugliness in resilience, but there's also beauty in resilience, and understanding that no matter how many times you get knocked down, there's still brighter days to come. Take that to your own brain, still live each day by day. That's resilience.
Resilience is the deepest strength vital within to continue pushing against the forces that challenge us and to keep striving toward becoming a greater person than our current self and beyond.
So I hate to cut it at that part. I hopefully will be able to show you live in person someday when it is safe. There's just the ending section, but I didn't want to give it all away. So I do hope to perform it sometime. And I know I was going to perform it with you, Kat, for our women's performance group. So hopefully that can still happen sometime.
Yeah. So, you know, we have a lot of conversations about dance and like where dance is going and what it feels like to be in the dance community. And right now is a really interesting time, just with like inclusivity, and I think the dance world right now is really going through this push of like identifying a dancer as an artist and not necessarily as a body, and having them call in their experiences, their personal beliefs, whatever it is that makes them uniquely who they are. So I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about your experience as a person of color in the dance community, specifically in Wisconsin, because that's where you're based, and yeah, just share what it's been like.
Yeah, it's really interesting because ever since I started professionally performing, starting out in 2013, I just knew that I just wanted to dance. I wanted to perform. I didn't care what it took to get there. And I knew that, like, of course, you're there to be respectful and have that professional etiquette in the studio and listen to your director and do whatever they're telling you, and without maybe question, depending on how you feel and what the work is about. But I literally just knew that I had to do everything I could to be like the best, the most perfect dancer in those specific companies. But then it took me until I was 29, and that was when I joined Li Qiaoping Dance. I knew she was having auditions, and I knew that I had to push myself to something new and to maybe branch out of where I was dancing before. And don't get me wrong, I'm extremely grateful for all of those opportunities, but I just knew that for myself, I need personal growth. And, you know, I've always been afraid of who I am as an adoptee, an Asian American human being and a dancer. And it didn't, at age 29, working with Xiaoping, it finally clicked that I don't have to be ashamed anymore. And she was one of the only people who could really help me realize that, because her work is really focused on culture and identity, and work that really speaks about what's happening and what's relevant in the world. And I was, you know, not only hired because, you know, I'm a dancer, I really put my heart and soul in that audition, and I really wanted to dance with her in that company. And she was also calling out for Asian dancers too, because there was a project that she wanted me to share my adoption story. So I performed an adoption duet with another dancer who we became really close, and we got to share something so personal. And just meeting within like a month, we really got to know each other and have deep conversations. So it it woke me up basically of my identity matters, and I can be valued in a space that, these artists do care that you're not just a dancer, you're not just a body, you're actually a human being, and you matter.
That's cool. Yeah. Yeah, that's what needs to happen, is for those spaces to be accessible to everybody, Can you talk a little bit more about the process that you went into for the solo that you showed us? Because that is really close to you, and yeah, just like the personal growth that you experienced inside that.
Yeah. So as I mentioned, that I was going through just some difficult family issues, and also some, I guess, a lot of self-critical moments to myself. So, and that I don't think that's ever gone away, that perfectionism, because that started when I was, starting with piano. And I think, the perfectionism has never left. But hopefully that's changing now. And I knew that I just had to make a piece about what I was going through at the time. And I guess it's still very relevant today of how my life is. But for a long time, I would just tell myself, like, oh, this is going to sound terrible, but you are worthless. Like, you are failing. You can't achieve perfection. You're just undervalued. Who would want to be with you? And the last sentence is, when life knocks you down multiple times, how do you find the strength to get back up? So I felt like, coming from a low point at a certain point in my life, I knew that I needed to build those steps to find a place where I could really appreciate myself and know that I can trust and believe in what I'm doing. And also finding that resilience in my own self. So I'm still trying to gather like my own definition of it, but I just knew that no matter what life throws at us, just to never give up, to keep fighting. And I'm a huge fighter, not only in dance, but just in life itself.
You're feisty. That's what I'll say. Like, you don't expect it, and then there it is. We were talking about this the other night, and you brought it up when you were talking about what makes you perform. And I know there's like, from when I first met you to now, there's been a huge shift in like what that means. And I just want you to talk a little bit about like your personal journey of coming from the space of what I would say entertainment to this place of like self exploration, and everything in between.
Oh man, that is a big question. So, after graduating, like I mentioned, I knew that I wanted to just perform. And as you know, Kat, we would have conversations after rehearsal, and I would always look for validation. Am I, doing okay? This is my first time performing in a professional company, and like, am I doing this movement? I would just literally self-criticize, and it would be a roller coaster of emotions, just to make sure that I'm doing everything perfectly, or just to please the director was always my goal. Yuck. Okay. But it's in a good way. So, of course, you want to do the best you can. And I wanted to make sure that I was standing out. showing up in the way that everybody else was. So I guess knowing how much I've grown throughout working with different dancers, different directors, up until now, I feel like I really care about performing what truly matters most to me, which is not about entertaining the audience, not to be famous, and not to be perfect, because there's no such thing as perfection, and that was really hard to find out. But I think that I always need the audience or whoever's watching to feel a connection and to have an understanding of what I'm dancing about. I don't know, there's something weird that's happening inside where I have this urgency to want to reach out to certain people, or who is ever watching, that I need them to know who I am. And I guess it's really hard to explain, because I guess I feel it more when I'm performing.
Yeah. Jump into the sensation of it. Like, describe that, because that's essentially like being, it's a state of being. When you get to that point, it's really hard to, articulate it, but tell me the sensations that you feel.
I feel like I am truly, like, I'm embodying all of the movement, but I take it to another level. So I literally feel everything that I have from within. And like, it's like everything is filling up. It's really juicy and gooey. And it's like, I don't know, I just feel like I'm 10 times bigger on stage than I'm 5'2", and everyone tells me I'm tiny and I'm short, but really I feel really empowered when I'm on stage. And I feel like, going back to my identity, and I feel like I need to continue to let my story radiate out. And I don't know, it's like, not like I'm reaching for help or anything, but it's like it's a need for people to understand who I am and where I come from, and know that I'm just not, I don't know, I'm just not your just a regular human being. I'm so sorry, I'm doing a terrible job explaining this.
No, it's really, it's good, because dance is so visceral, and when it comes to this space of being and emanating and sharing, like, even a viewer would have a difficult time articulating what it feels like to connect to someone's movement that they might have never have done before. So it's, I really like all the things you're saying, because I can feel it in my body. I get it. So there is no such thing as perfection. But I want to ask you if you've ever had a performance that you just felt like you'd hit that, or when was the first time you felt like you connected, and like that sense of empowerment and that gooiness and deliciousness was like coming out?
I feel like I've definitely had those moments of the gooiness and appreciation, but I think I finally woke up to realizing that this particular piece was bigger than me. Or it was about me, but it was like it wasn't just about the movement anymore. It was actually about what I was trying to communicate about my story to the world, or to the audience. So I don't know, I always feel really appreciative of, like, I can never pick just one piece of performance where, okay, because I guess I always find a new element or a new sensation that, wow, I never felt that before, or I went to a different place that seemed like I feel so alive right now.
Nice. Kristen, do you have any questions?
Let me unmute myself. Thanks for sharing all that, Elisabeth. I do have a couple questions. You had, and before, I also want to mention, if anyone in the audience has questions, you have a little chat box that you can kind of type things in. And then near the end of this talk, we'll unmute you and you'll be able to ask Elisabeth the question directly. So anyway, I have a question about audience involvement, and it sounded like you were asking the audience to give participation into your piece when you were talking about in the beginning of this interview. Is that something that there's performance artists, and I always go to Yoko Ono when I think of audience participation in a piece. And have you explored more of having your audience work directly with you in some way with your dance? And then I was also taken by the video you had shown, where you see the audience behind you in the mirror. And as the artist looking back, how do you read that yourself in that audience, and how do you interpret yourself among the people that are watching you? What does that mean for you as a dancer or as an artist?
It's really cool. I have felt a difference between performing in a theater where the stage was raised, or on the ground, or and the audience was kind of disconnected somehow. So then I felt like I don't know, the feeling seems just a different sensation in a theater space. But then when I'm performing in a more intimate space where I can actually see everyone's faces and see everyone's bodies, that to me becomes more vulnerable. I feel like I'm really connecting through a human experience. So I know dance is part of the human experience, and when I'm performing something so personal or something really deep inside, I feel like I can connect even more with those people that are watching. And I always go back to that word, understanding. I feel like if I'm really performing to or looking at someone while I'm doing a movement, I feel like maybe they can understand like what I'm really living in that moment. Does that answer your question? Did I answer that question?
That did answer that question. Randomly question. I don't even know if I even asked the question right, so it was a perfect answer.
I'm gonna say audience participation. Do you want to talk about that gallery event you did last year with the sculptures in Milwaukee? Do you remember what I'm talking about?
Oh wait, sorry.
Yeah, you, Elisabeth. Do you remember that one? That performance with the sculptures, and it was all about borders.
Oh, the one that I did at the Alice Wilds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How was that? Because that definitely was not like traditional proscenium stage space dancing. You were like dancing amongst sculptures in a really narrow space with audience members all around you.
Oh my gosh, that was also another life-changing experience. We had planned, like we choreographed to certain spaces and we mapped out our structure, But we had, I'm trying to remember, there was like 50 plus people that came. And I will say a diverse audience was there. I think people from everywhere came, which was really cool. So we had the audience members creep into our space a bit. So we had to really be mindful of where we're dancing and who was next to us. And I will also bring up the fact that because we were dancing about something personal to each of us, so I took pieces of my story as an adoptee into that performance. And I know other dancers of color who also brought themselves into the piece too, about their background and their story, their identity. And after that performance, I think it was just an overwhelming sensation of what was going on, but also the fact that I literally, I know I give everything that I have on whatever stage I'm performing in or whatever space, but it seems to be happening a little bit more often where there's something about art that resurfaces emotions or the experiences that you're living in. And I started to tear up a bit after that performance. And I'm not sure if maybe things buried down, just I tried to avoid, and then they kind of bubbled up. And I don't know. Have you ever felt that, either of you? Just how how art
all
can
the time. All the time, because that's dance for me. It's how I process my emotions, and when things come up, I find myself in the dance studio doing whatever has to escape my body or release from it, to feel that. Did you feel like audience participation was different with like how close the audience was and the fact that it was kind of like an in the round performance, so audience members all around versus like sitting in a chair and just watching, but they're like standing there?
Yeah, it definitely felt like around the space type of performance. I feel like, I don't know, in a way they could have easily been in the show. In the proximity, but also because they were like definitely a part of the piece just by being there. And because there were so many art pieces around the space, created by Nirmal Raha, and it was really like there were no boundaries in that space really about what was off stage or on stage. I think, the whole audience brought a new life to the piece.
All right. Should we open it up to questions if anyone has any? Crickets.
A lot of silence.
Yeah.
Oh, Tom has a comment. Tom, if you'd like, I'll unmute you and you can make your comment directly to Elisabeth.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, we can.
Hey, very good. How are you, Elisabeth?
I'm good. Good to see you on here again.
Yay. My comment was, and I mentioned it, had mentioned this to Elisabeth long ago during a performance of On Display for the Americans with Disabilities Act performance. It's done annually under Kadiat. But the first time I saw her perform, and I don't know if it was with the Kadiak Dance Collective or what group, but it was impossible to take my eyes off of her. I mean, her ability, and I wrote it here, just to meld her technique and just her passion and the sense of calm that it's like it was, I knew I should be watching the whole ensemble, and one's eyes deliberately go back to Elisabeth. So after more than one performance, I'd say to my wife, my daughters, is it just me? Or is she, and they're like, no, 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 she fills the stage with her presence. And it's just incredible. So I'm just so glad that you are dancing and doing all that you're doing. And it's just been a pleasure and an honor to see you perform.
Oh, Tom, thank you so much for your kind words. That's very sweet. Oh my gosh.
Hey, Margaret.
And Elizabeth and Christian and everybody else.
Hello.
I guess I could ask a question. I'm wondering if you've ever thought about leaving Wisconsin and what you find in the Wisconsin dance scene that sustained you and what you want more of.
Thank you for that question, Margaret. What is keeping me here? I am married, and my husband and I guess we're probably not, we're probably not going to stay in the Milwaukee area forever, but this is where, like, we're pretty central to where our families are. And I guess where I'm able to sustain my dancing as a way for me to live right now. But I really enjoy working with certain companies that I feel like I want to keep growing with. And I'm still kind of reevaluating of, how much dancing I'll be able to do next season and, with COVID, what that brings. If it was my choice though, I would definitely move to New York City and, or maybe, a city that I could really find more, powerful aesthetic in the dancing that I really, really want to be doing. I love contemporary. I really gravitate towards contemporary ballet, but I feel like I'm just not able to relocate at the moment. But I agree that, in, I guess, where I'm dancing here in Wisconsin, I can't always find that certain element that I really want to take inventory as a dancer. But I definitely feel like I'm growing where I am with who I'm working with, and I'm forever grateful. But I know that, like, I've toured in New York City quite a few times with Lee Chalping Dance, and just being there and performing on certain stages, that really builds a fire in myself to want more as a dancer, for sure. And I would really like to see, especially in Wisconsin, safer and inclusive spaces that support dancers of color. I think that it's just really hard for me to dance in certain spaces where I'm undervalued, or at least I think I am, and I'm being told, like, I will voice my concerns. I will try to speak up about specific issues that I feel really strongly about and need to be addressed. I have been shut down multiple times, or I will be redirected in a way, I guess, gaslighting, that I'm overthinking this, or, oh, that person didn't mean it that way. They're just, other excuses. And I think that it's important for especially directors to acknowledge who their dancers are, especially if they have diversity, and I will always say this, that identity and their stories matter in those spaces. And if I think for me, I have always struggled about finding a space and a sense of belonging ever since I was adopted. And I still struggle with that. And it took me a long time to find a space where I do feel like I belong, but I'm also still trying to fight for other spaces where, like, I am here. Can you please understand me? Can you see me? Can you hear me? And I feel like sometimes my voice isn't enough in those spaces. And I'm trying to figure out, how can, they believe me if they're not going to stand up with me.
That just makes me think, well, two things. One, thanks, Kat and Christian, for making this happen, because it's so nice to be in a conversation. But also more directed to what you were just talking about, Elisabeth. I'm wondering where you found your community, because I know my own personal experience, like, you have to find your community, like, especially in these smaller places, smaller scenes, art scenes, dance scenes especially, because other than New York, most places are smaller dance scenes. In what ways, or in what places, or outside genre, or anything, have you found, like, where do you find your support?
Well, there is one specific group that I have found community with, not just as a dancing level, but as like a sense of family, and a place that I can really be myself and openly communicate with whatever I need to say, and know that those people will hear me, and they will take action, in knowing that what we perform about really speaks to what matters to all of us. I also want to bring up the fact that this particular space really sees all of us as individuals, like who we are as human beings and dancers. And I have been told that I should keep, this is from a different space, but I should keep my race separate from my dancing. And that was really hard for me to hear, because for someone like me who just became comfortable with being Asian American as a contemporary dancer, how can I separate myself? I realized that I am a whole person. I am who I am, and I, like, as a dancer, I will always carry my self, my identity, my story with me. So yeah.
So where's the good place, though, that you're talking about? Like, where you found support and community? Like,
with Lee Xiaoping dance in Mass.
Okay. Yeah. And yeah, that's just trying to invisibilize who you are. So that. But anyway, okay.
Cool. Any other questions?
So
Comments?
I'm really interested in your work with Nirmal Raja. I didn't realize that's who had done the sculptures that you were dancing around. I know that she's doing another she works in these huge series. She's doing a series right now based off of masks that she's embroidering with sayings that nurses and doctors are hearing in hospitals during this COVID crisis. But I'm curious as to how you enjoyed the process of working with someone outside of the dance world. actually, I don't know if she's a dancer or not. Maybe she is a dancer. I don't know if she has dance experience. But do you find that that is allowing more experimentation of you as an individual? Do you see that as freeing, as something outside of, you know, kind of the dance constructs that you might be in otherwise?
Yeah, absolutely. I felt like we could take the reins in any direction with that particular piece, and knowing that we were basing or generating and creating our movement based off of her work. She gave us agency to create our movement how we would like to. And so my great friend Alicia Jin, she was producing our dance piece, and all of us went into the space, and we could really see, you know, what we needed to really pay attention to for Nirmal's work and what we needed to highlight. And I feel like the piece was much bigger than what any of us had imagined. It was something really special to work with another artist who gave us agency to speak about what we wanted to say with her work.
Thank you. That's fantastic. Does anyone else have any questions of Elisabeth at all? No. Well, Elisabeth, thank you so much for spending time with us. Kat and I are putting together this newspaper, FSM, to kind of bring light to what artists are doing in the area and in Wisconsin. And we're working to raise the conversation as to what is possible in the arts, and, you know, to, I think, Margaret's point, maybe what in Wisconsin we should be viewing in the arts, because our state needs to grow, and we need people like Kat, we need people like Margaret, we need people like Elisabeth, we need people to kind of push what the arts are right now here, and I appreciate everyone who's been a part of that. So thank you. This is going to be on, we're going to kind of do a write-up of this, and it'll be in our next newspaper that'll come out kind of middle of next month. And then also this will be on, YouTube. So if you missed anything or want to see anything else, FSM has a channel on YouTube where we'll have this interview. So thanks, Elisabeth, for that. And then our next interview will be on August 10th at 1 o'clock. And it will be with Jamie Lafriene and Kevin Suterland, and they're from the Fox Valley Symphony Orchestra. And they're going to be talking about their new season and what is it to be in an orchestra in a pandemic. But I think also, and one of the things I'm looking forward to is something that Elisabeth is also talking about, you know, that they're trying to show that it's not just the symphony. People go to hear dead white men and the music they made, right? And the ballet, people might think you go there and you see a certain type of person, a certain color of person. And that needs to change. Like, that isn't right. That's not what we're here to do. We're here to listen to everyone and share an experience with each other. And I don't know. Thank you, Elisabeth, for stepping out of your comfort zone with us and letting us experience a little bit of your life, because we need to know that. So thank you.
Thank you both very much again for letting me share with you both. I'm forever grateful to be in the space with you, and I hope we can collaborate in the future together.
Yeah.
And also, I would love to just continue this conversation ongoing in the future, you know, even if it's in person when it's safe too. I feel like we could just talk about this for hours, but but yeah.
Cool.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you everyone for joining. Margaret is appreciative of you, Elisabeth, as well as Tom and Patty, and I know that Kat and myself are also very excited to have you a part of this. Kat, anything you want to say before closing all this out?
No, I'm really excited that we had Elisabeth on here because she is such a pivotal performer in this area, and she's bringing something so important when she moves. And I wish you would show more of your work and that we could have you up here in Appleton, because I think Appleton needs to see what you're doing and be moved by that in the ways that audiences in Milwaukee and Madison have been. So
Thank you so much for your kind words.
yeah.
When it's safe, I would love to get back to performing with you, Kat.
Yeah. Yep. Cool.
All right, I'm just going to unmute everyone. And if you want to say, oh, maybe I won't. I thought I was going to unmute everyone.
Thank you.
If you want to say goodbye, please do. Otherwise, we'll see you later.
Hi, Elizabeth. You take care. Say hi to Miss Ivy for me.
I will. Thank you so much for coming.
My pleasure.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you, Margaret. It was nice to meet you on here.
Yeah. Talk to Kat. Okay. Okay. Bye.
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 Kat, I also just want to tell you that you have been a huge person in my life, that you've made such an impact on my life as a dancer, but also as a human. And I'm just so thankful for our close friendship for all these years. And I don't know what I would do without you. You've always inspired me to push myself to be a stronger dancer. So thank you for everything.
Thanks. I think it's the same. It's mutual. It's absolutely mutual.